Welcome to GC Weekly, the official podcast of the Georgia College Podcasting Club. On each episode, you'll be informed on what's happening on campus, from in the classroom to student organizations to Greek life, athletics, and more. I'm your host, MG Sinkle. On today's episode, our producer, Alyssa Crosby, will be in the studio to discuss her experience working at Reynolds Lake Oconee as a GCSU student. Plus, Brooke Burson will join us to report the latest on Bobcat athletics, and Greer Harper will share what is happening in Greek life and other student organizations on campus. Joining me right now is Alyssa Crosby. Can you start by telling us a little bit about Reynolds Lake Oconee and what drew you to start working there?
Yeah, of course. So I started working at Reynolds December of 2022. I had a few people that I knew that worked up there, and they said that the money is good, the schedule is flexible, and they really try to adjust to Georgia College students in particular, just because we are a majority of the food service, golf attendance, stuff like that. So I just went up there to try to find another way to make money, but also be able to focus on my studies.
That's awesome. It sounds like a perfect fit for a student. So what is your role at Reynolds, and how has it influenced your growth both professionally and personally?
So at Reynolds, I currently work at the Overlook at Great Waters, it is a closer resort. It is 30-something minutes, maybe 35 from Milledgeville, and then the other places are a little bit farther out, and I am a server there. We do, I would say, fine dining. I know by other people's standard it may be different, but I do a lot of alcohol sales, like wines and stuff like that, and I get a lot of experience in things that I wouldn't have known before. They also offer like a sommelier service, which can build your resume just a little bit if you want to continue in food service, but it's a great place. It really is.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like it's definitely impacted you. So speaking of that, what do you find most rewarding about your work at Reynolds?
One of the main things that I find very rewarding there is the clientele. Being on the Great Water side, I see a lot less than the main property, but the people that I do see are very respectful and a lot of very achieved people. I see football players, coaches, professors, just people who have made it very far in life, and I really do enjoy that aspect of it.
I love that. People can definitely make the difference, and that's awesome that you see some celebrity sightings every now and then. So I would imagine that there are a few benefits to working there. So can you share some specific opportunities or perks you've experienced as a student employee?
Yeah, so one of the things is the diversity. There are, I believe, 6 or 7 different restaurants that you can work at if you want to do food services. There are now 7 courses, so there's just different places for you to go. So another thing is the referral opportunity that they have, and if you are a current worker at Reynolds, you can refer a friend or somebody like that to come and work at the restaurant, golf course, wherever you would like to go, and they will give you a check for as many months as that person has worked, and it works out very well because that person can also refer people. So if you'd like, put my name down. But no, it has a lot of benefits. And the last benefit I'll say is there are scholarships that you can get. I am very grateful that I received the Parrots Point Scholarship, and that has some amazing donors. And actually next week, I believe I'm eating a Christmas dinner with them. So it's very friendly and family-like over there.
That's great, and congratulations on your scholarship. So it sounds like you've gained an incredible amount of things from this experience. So I know that balancing work and school can be tough. So how has Reynolds supported you in balancing your academic responsibilities with your job?
Reynolds has helped me out a lot in the way of, since I work at a place that only has a dinner service, I go into work at 3:30, so the upper part of my day, I get that chance to go to my classes, to do work and stuff. And whenever I do get into work, I can switch my brain from work mode to work mode, So once we set up and everything, if I do need to do something, I can sit down for another 30 minutes or so and get that out and not have issues with work, because my the employers understand that we're college students first.
That's great that you have that skill and that they are so understanding. So for students who may be interested, would you recommend this opportunity to other students? And what advice would you give them about balancing work and school?
I would absolutely recommend this opportunity to people if you are willing to make the drive. The drive is the only downfall, which I personally love it because it gives me time to refresh and get ready for work. But if you are in the food service industry or in the hospitality industry and you want to continue to work in a customer service field, this is an amazing place to build your resume, because unlike other jobs that you would have in smaller businesses, this place has an HR. This place has uppers. It's just a lot of more professional things than young people are used to seeing, and I think this is a great start for a lot of people, and I'm grateful to be there.
Yeah, that's great advice and sounds like a great opportunity. Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us today. It was awesome to have you not just in the studio, but also behind a mic.
Thank you.
Now with the latest happenings in Bobcat athletics is Brooke Burson.
Hey Bobcats, I'm Brooke Burson with the GC Weekly Podcast to give you the latest in Bobcat athletics. GCSU announced the appointment of Ben English as the new head coach of the Bobcat golf program. English, a professional in the competitive golf and player development, officially assumes his role as head coach effective immediately. He served as the leader of Next Level Golf, a company dedicated to performance coaching and college recruiting. Under his guidance, more than 70 players successfully earned college scholarships. English has studied the mental aspects of competitive golf under sports psychologists, which equipped him with a different approach to player development. The GCSU Athletics Department celebrated Coach English's arrival with an introductory press conference and community welcome on Tuesday, December 3rd. The GCSU women's basketball team was led by Evie DiPetro, who delivered an amazing performance during the team's 57-50 victory over Fort Valley State University on November 26th. Her efforts earned her Zaxby's Player of the Week honors for the week ending December 1st. DiPetro tallied 18 points in the game, including a sequence in the third quarter where she nailed 3 consecutive three-pointers in just over a minute. Her sharpshooting stretched the Bobcats' lead to 12 points, a margin the team held for the remainder of the game. In addition to her scoring, DiPetro contributed 3 rebounds and an assist. DiPetro's game was complemented by strong performances from her teammates. Aisha Willis added 15 points, while Jada Warren dominated with 13 rebounds, including 6 on the offensive glass. Their collective effort led the Bobcats to their 6th win of the season, improving their record to 6-1. The GCSU men's basketball team won with a 71-56 victory over Fort Valley State University. With contributions from multiple players, the Bobcats controlled the game from start to finish, improving their season record to 2-4. Zaire Green scored 16 points and grabbed 5 rebounds, while Tony Carpio delivered 19 points and 8 rebounds. The Bobcats outscored the Wildcats 38-10 inside and secured a 49-33 advantage. The game began with GCSU asserting their dominance early, jumping out to a 10-2 lead within the first 5 minutes. While the Wildcats briefly narrowed the gap to 2 points midway through the first half, the Bobcats responded with a 10-1 run, extending their lead to 11 before halftime. Defensive intensity and key plays by Khalil Green in the final moments of the half left the team with a 41-28 advantage. In the second half, GCSU maintained control, extending their lead to as many as 15 points. The Wildcats made a brief push, cutting the deficit to 8, but the Bobcats balanced scoring and effort to secure the win. Again, I'm Brooke Burson, and I will see y'all next week. Go Bobcats!
Greer Harper joins us now with a look at what GCSU student and Greek life organizations across campus are doing.
Hey Bobcats, I hope you're all hanging in there these last few days of classes. Greek life and student organizations have slowed down, so I hope everyone can use this time to focus on finals. For this week, I have Professor Austin Koch for another installment of Professor Profiles. He was on the show a couple weeks ago, and he really is a student favorite around here, so if you want to know more about him and his work, then keep on listening. Hi Austin, thank you for joining me today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, wonderful. Thank you for having me. As you all know, my name is Austin Koch, or Professor Austin, whatever you want to go by. Just not Mr. Cook, because that's my dad's name. I'm a professor here at Georgia College and State University, and I teach film and TV production. My primary area of focus for my research and my creative works tends to be primarily in horror films and genre works. So I work around, while I said primarily horror, like I'm also interested interested in sci-fi, exploitation, and various other genres within that region. And I'm 28 years old, so I'm probably younger than most people anticipate when they first meet me as their professor. So it's always an interesting story in there. But what else do you want to know?
I really also want to know what led you to want to pursue a job in teaching at a university.
Perfect. Yes. So I was fortunate enough to know, I grew up with parents who were teachers in California. So my mom taught like anywhere from first to sixth grade. And my dad was a high school history teacher. So I came from a family of educators, and they kind of didn't want me to go into education because they'd been in it their whole lives. And they knew just kind of how interesting and let's say different the profession has become over the years. And for me, I always wanted to be a filmmaker, and I still do. And what I did is I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker from a really young age, and I told myself, I was like, it'd be really cool on top of that, being able to teach other people about it. Because I feel like people routinely improve at their craft and their field of work when they're teaching people. And you know how people say that like teaching's a calling, like you don't just choose it as a job? That is 100% accurate.
Yeah.
If you're just like, oh, I'll pick up teaching as like a hobby job, then you are in the wrong field.
Right.
This is very much a passion that you need to have. And I'm very fortunate that I have that. From the first day I started teaching, I felt like I'd really reached a spot where I was like, wow, I love this. I adore my students. I adore my classes. I love what I'm doing. And it all started just because I kept pursuing my passions. From a young age, again, knew what I wanted to do. So it was easy just to go like, okay, well, I'm going to narrow down my college choices and my professional choices.
So you mentioned you have a passion for filmmaking and helping students do that. But how do you balance pursuing your own creative projects outside of teaching with your career in university? So
the thing I like about that, especially like at university, is that it's very much encouraged by the university as well, too. I guarantee that most people who probably look at like the research field of that don't see it as like they're like big horror fans, but they know that it's an important part of like how people's like different perspectives, academic or otherwise, like overlap with each other. And for me, I've always taken an academic approach to how I critique and interact with my work. So it doesn't feel like work in the same way. It doesn't feel like I'm like, all right, gotta make another project, gotta film another short. Like that's just what I'm doing to, get to places. It's, my work overlaps with a lot of my teaching, especially as I, am learning new things on top of that. Like professors learn new things all the time. I think people forget that, but, because we're here also for research as well too. So the field keeps changing, but also just like for me, I love the subjects I get to teach, so it doesn't necessarily feel like work.
Okay, yeah.
It's hard to like really juggle sometimes because there is a there's a heavier teaching load for a lot of people, but it's smaller classes. I get to learn my students' names. I get to interact with them and give them direct feedback on their work. And I don't know how, like some people like can like see that as like a negative, and I always see that as like a positive, that I get that much time with my students, because I feel like sometimes people go to college and then they're in a lecture hall with 300 other people. Yeah. And the professor's like, I've never met you in my life before. Who are you? And it's like, I'm your student. Like, I've been in your class every day. And they're like, oh, well, there's a lot of you. And for me, it's like building a network and like seeing the opportunities for my work to overlap and like serve as something to hopefully inspire the students as well too. Like, especially in filmmaking. Filmmaking is a tough industry. I'm not going to say it's the toughest in the world, but like any creative industry, like finding success and finding your voice and finding something lifelong and meaningful is very hard to do. And some people walk away from that. And I understand, but hopefully by doing that, I can inspire them to not give up on those things, because I feel like people sell themselves short before they even try selling themselves. Yeah. And for me, like doing that and showing them, here's what I can do, here's what I want to do. I hope that if you feel inspired, you know that you are capable of doing this too. Like, I'm not even 30 years old yet, and I'm doing it. Right. And it's not because I have more resources than anyone else. It's because I believe in all of you to do that as well too. I'm trusting all of you.
Yeah.
And they prove to me that they're more than capable of doing it. They're excellent at what they do. So I just see it as like a natural progression of, you know, how my career is working and functioning. For me, it's my life.
Yeah. Wow.
I am tired quite often, though, I would say. With that being said, I'm very, what is it people these days say? I'm very eepy.
I'm very eepy. So eepy all the time. Wow. Yeah. I mean, you kind of touched on this, like, in the next question I was going to ask. I was going to ask, like, what advice you have to